Well, it's another Sunday with nothing going on. Wait, what? The Oscars? Tonight? I can't believe we're on opposite the Oscars. Oh well. Fortunately, I've got good people to do the show with me because I know we probably won't get any viewers. Not on the live performance of this anyway. But hey, let's get started. It's time for Retro Rangers.
Five, four, three, two, one, fire!
Hey, everybody, Capt'n hailing to you from space here, Starbase 80. And oh boy, we got a show. Oh my gosh, have we got a show for you tonight that you can watch later because the Oscars are on right now. Here's why I would have a show on opposite the Oscars. At one point in my life, I was working in Hollywood and I was never going to make it to the Oscars. I knew that. I totally knew that. And then I just started to resent it. You know, it was just like prom and I wouldn't get a date. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm having my own prom. I'm doing that thing where you have your own party. And I've invited the best people. For example, my co-host, the novelist, the co-host, comedian, a world traveler. Sure, world traveler. Will you say hello to Commander Joe Townsell, please?
Thank you, sir. And I just have one question right off the get-go.
Yeah.
Oscar who? Who's this guy? I'm not worried about some guy named Oscar I never even met. But if I may, I want to, speaking of world traveling, I do want to extend one final thank you. As you can see, I'm back in the shuttle again. I want to thank the co-captains, Tony Luna and Jennifer Levy, once again for their hospitality for 3 glorious weeks on the Starship Luna Levy in Fresno, California. I am back in Kingman. Happy to be here with John and Retro Rangers. Thank you, sir.
What a great trip you had, apparently. From everything we could see, you had a great time.
I sure did. I mean, I can't wait to go back. I'm looking to go in the near future, so you'll know when I'm on the road because I will have a different background.
We're also trying to get him out here to the Avocado Ranch. That would be great too. So hey, sometime soon, you're probably gonna see Captain John and Commander Joe sitting side by side in the same camera shot.
Now, the only thing that worries me about that a little bit is 2 guys in bathrooms sitting right next to each other. We'll make it work. We'll make it work.
We'll somehow make it less creepy. I don't know how, but somehow we will do that. We've got a guest who, oh my gosh, there's so many things we should have talked about in the green room because the one thing I didn't really go over is how to address him. So I will say this. This guest has pretty much done one of the hardest things you could possibly do. He did college radio, which I did too. And that's how we were friends. We knew each other from that. We were roommates. We were pals. And he stayed in radio. How does it what? People get to do that? He stayed in radio and is a fantastic executive in radio, something maybe a lot of people don't know. But he also has a fantastic voice and is just a wonderful guy to hang out with and knows a lot. He knows a lot, especially about the stuff we're going to be seeing tonight. So would you welcome aboard Starbase 80, our good friend and visiting ensign, Mike Sauter is here.
Hello. It's thank you so much for that. I'm blushing. And actually, as everybody probably should know, just to reveal, I actually just got 80 box tops from Sugar Blam cereal and sent it in, and that's how I was able to get the exalted position of guest. So thank you, John. Appreciate it. Great to be here with you both.
Sugar Blam cereal, is you say?
Well, it's just one of the one of the leading brands, as they say.
I would like to say that Sugar Plums is not one of our sponsors, but we will be seeing a lot of commercials tonight because there's no way I can keep them from happening. Oh, and we don't have an official sponsor, but we do have something that we love to promote. And that is the Joe Townsend collection of science fiction and horror fiction. Science fiction and horror fiction. So you gotta check it out, folks. You see it in Joe's little name tag there, joetownsend.com. You know, horror springs eternal, friends. You must check out these books. And I gotta say, the ebook versions are great.
Oh, visual aids.
I do love having them in paperback as well. So,
Thank you, sir.
Pick up some of those Joe Townsend books. And you know what? Read them. Don't be like me. Read them.
And you got two listening there, John. So we got to take care of that as soon as possible.
Yeah,
You need to complete your Dark and Bizarre Joe Townsend library post haste.
That's true. Though I will say, Hell and Wellness, Joe's latest, I have that in an ebook form, and I've been reading that. So that's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
But you got to check out
labor of love and hate. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so Mike, as you probably know, what we like to do on this show is we like to watch a little video, do live reactions and reviews. I still haven't come up with a disclaimer for the show, but I will say this: we just watch portions. I know that doesn't matter a lot to the people who owned these properties, and we get it. We create things as well, and these are, these creations belong to the people who own them. In some cases, the artists, but very infrequently. And we're just here to watch them for review purposes. We encourage anyone who watches or listens to our show to go right ahead and go to the real thing and give them your money. We're not asking for any money, so let people know that you respect their copyright. We respect it too. It's just we want to be able to watch this stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, here's the first thing I wanted to drop on you guys. I have only one question for you about this, and that is, have you ever seen this commercial before? So here we go. Gonna do a little share screen. And there we go.
That pesky photographer keeps trying to catch Kiss off guard. Ace and Peter are intercepted.
Hey, Kiss, look this way! Nuts!
Then he tracks down Paul at a restaurant.
Oh, shucks! Hey, Gene, over here! Darn!
But Kiss has the last laugh. Kiss Unmasked, the all-new album on Casablanca Records and Tricks. Kiss Unmasked, available at Budget Tapes and Records.
Budget Tapes and Records, no less.
New
one to me. Never seen it before. Can't remember if I had.
Big thanks to Ace Pro Video for putting that up. That's actually a really nice version of that. Let me just get that back there. You've never seen it before, Joe, you're saying?
No, if I had, I've long since forgotten, which is not unusual for a man my senior status. But, I want to run out and buy the album right now as a result of looking at it today.
Mike Sauter, I swear I saw this commercial while watching maybe Saturday Night Live, possibly Fridays. Have you ever seen this commercial? Do you remember it at all?
I have no recollection of ever seeing that before, and I just have a feeling that the just zooms in place of actual movement would have struck a chord in my memory, because that was fun to watch in a sort of tongue-in-cheek way.
I have to say, and this is something I do a lot, because I mostly edit in iMovie, and iMovie hasn't really changed at all in 20 years. And and so a lot of times, well, I guess you saw it in the joetownsend.com commercial. I just put it on what they call Ken Burns, and it just sort of travels around. Now, take a look. Every scene in this commercial was part of the album cover. You know? They pretty much had the album cover, and they just shot pieces of it. I'm not sure who that voice was. I feel like he was one of the old WNEW guys.
It didn't. It didn't. I'm not sure about that, but it didn't really ring a bell when I heard it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that just basically seems like someone was handed an album cover and said, hey, you got to make something in like the next hour.
Yeah, I'll give you an hour and a budget of nothing.
Well, I
Here's
tell you,
some
it
re-
reminds me strongly of something a little bit less retro, and that's Aha's "Take on Me" video.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, except they actually, like used like an effect.
Yeah, it was a little more advanced than what we're seeing here. For
Yeah,
sure.
I used to years ago, working in radio in the pre-digital days when you actually had to splice tape with a razor blade to
Right.
make an edit. And I worked at a radio station once where I was the production director of the station, and I used to joke, I would hold up the razor blade and say, like, this is my special effect. This is all I got.
Yeah. And it was amazing to be able to do that. I remember we were required in college, you had to buy your editing block. And it was just some machinist would make this sleeve of metal. Well, it is a flat piece. You know what reminds me a lot of the old editing block is COVID tests.
Oh.
Because they give you that flat little bar. And you gotta, I'm such a big monster. I'm just like, it's all little fiddly stuff for me. But basically, your editing block was a little piece of, fairly substantial metal,
Mhm.
and you could put the tape down in it, and it would just hold it there. And then it had these little slidey things that you would take a razor blade and you would cut the tape.
Yeah, a little groove in there.
And you would have to like get a grease pen and sit on a reel-to-reel and find, like, I remember in audio production class, we had to find the cough. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. You would have there would be a recording of some guy saying like, police arrested so and so at 1413 at 1413 Main Street, and then they'd give that to the freshman taking the class, and you'd have to like edit it so it sounded smooth without getting rid of the cough. Well, I used to joke that in college that when you took an audio production class back in those days, it's like, well, this, what could go wrong? You just tell people there's a lot of pressure on this, a grade's involved, and you lock them in a room with a razor blade. It's a little bit weird. But as it turns out, when I got into working in radio professionally, I was like, well, it actually did prepare me for, getting stuck in a room with a lot of pressure put on me to get things done at a certain time where I'm just sitting there, me and a razor blade. So it worked.
Yeah. The production studio that we had, so I worked in one station after graduating, and then I left to become a waiter because I would be making twice as much money. And then it all went downhill from there.
Yeah, I don't know if this is still the case, but back in the day, whenever there was an increase in the minimum wage, it was like everybody in radio was like, "Woo, a salary bump!"
I mean, people were always like, well, people listen to you every day, and maybe thousands of people know who you are, and they like you, and they're fans. It's like, yeah. And then I have to go to my other job delivering pizzas because they don't pay. It's not a paying job. Okay. So anyway, complaining about radio. Here we go back into the world of rock and roll. Now, what's interesting about Kiss is in 1980, they did put out that album called Unmasked. They did not unmask. That is not when they unmasked. This is when they unmasked. So we're going to go to the live event. I didn't even know this happened until I was researching for this episode. The moment where the band Kiss appeared without makeup was actually on MTV. And it was done in a, I think, quite interesting way. Let's see if you agree. So this is from, oh my gosh.
While audiences love their music, the biggest question was, who was really behind the makeup? And what did the band really look like? Well, in just a minute, you're going to meet the members of Kiss face to face.
Look at this. I just love how they have like the back lit. Like, we're going to show you their faces. It's going to happen, folks.
This is no Al Capone's vault going on. This is real.
and I love, it's funny to look back at this. Was like what, late 83, like back in this era of MTV. It's like all the VJs were wearing like very uncomfortably tight clothes at all times. or in the case of the Live Aid broadcast, uncomfortably short shorts for both men and women.
Oh my gosh. When Mike, you've done a couple of audio specials about Live Aid. What time of the year did that happen?
It was July 13th, 1985.
July 13th, 1985. Well, I just trying to plan out my summer. Maybe maybe we'll cover that. I don't know. I mean, there was some really fun stuff on it. This is Triple J, right?
Yeah, JJ Jackson. He was the one who was for Live Aid. This was obviously a couple years before Live Aid, but he was sent to England to cover Live Aid for MTV, and then they never used him. He never appeared on the Live Aid broadcast on MTV for whatever reason.
Brutal.
Yeah.
When I first was watching MTV, I was always amazed that the VJs were so young, except not JJ. But JJ always seemed like the serious one. He always seemed like the professional out of the group.
I think JJ Jackson and Mark
Goodman.
I was thinking of the Mark Goodson was of the game show producer and said no. I think the two of them, they had rock radio DJ experience, and I think the others didn't. So they were kind of the ones with the sort of cred in that area, I think.
Right. Nina Blackwood,
Martha
Quinn, Alan
Hunter. He was
Alan Hunter.
His big credit prior to getting hired by MTV was he was in the Fame video from David Bowie. So it's like there was like a group of people behind Bowie, like kind of going like this, just making little moves, and he was one of them.
Oh my God, that's funny. All right, I'm gonna skip a little bit because JJ Jackson goes, "You may know Kiss from this," and then he shows this video package, and from what Joe and I have been through with copyright fights, we're not going to do that. But
I'm glad you explained though, John, because I was worried that JJ Jackson had exploded.
A little bit of a bright flash thing.
Speaking of editing, holy cow. I hope nobody watching this has epilepsy. Wait a minute. Paul Stanley's wrecking a guitar? I didn't know he used to do that. A guy can barely play a guitar at that point.
They probably got frustrated. That's time to smash it.
And that, kids, is why Gene Simmons was famous. That tongue.
Well, in our promo this week, John, our promo ad, I was so tempted to give you a nice little jutting tongue out there. I reined it in a little bit.
Your tongue to rise up whenever you want.
Okay, please ignore whatever this commercial is, folks.
This is a really big moment. After 10 years together, exclusively here on MTV this evening, we're going to see Kiss without their makeup for the very first time. Vinnie Vincent, lead guitarist and co-writer of many of the songs on the current Kiss album.
Now, I do want to jump in here and say, yes, this is one of the later iterations of Kiss without Ace Frehley and without Peter Criss. I was doing some research, and apparently Ace. Okay, according to Paul Stanley's book, Ace was getting deeper and deeper into drugs and booze, and was not able to perform even in the studio when they needed him to. Now remember, this is just Paul Stanley's opinion here, but according to him, Peter Criss, barely talented. This is according to Paul Stanley.
Can you imagine, though, being Ace Frehley? You're in Kiss, and suddenly they're going to turn around and say, you know, you're partying too much. You know, and he's like, what? Isn't that part of the deal?
Like, you have to leave because you're partying every day.
Oh.
But you know, the whole, it's so interesting because you see these bands. Oh God, who's the band who did Magic Carpet Ride?
Steppenwolf.
You see these bands, and there's guys who sort of survive in the band, and they're not necessarily the most talented. They're not necessarily the ones who are driving everything, but they're the ones who stayed sober enough to still do the job. And that is really why, you know, somebody like Gene Simmons, who, as far as I know, I've heard this a lot, was pretty straight edge, not much of a drinker, not a drugger, a little bit of a fool around guy. When I say a little bit, I mean a lot, in terms of sex, but that was his vice. He was not a chemical guy. He was not a booze guy. So, you know, here are Paul and Gene still in the group. They get Vinnie Vincent. So that's who this is, Vinnie Vincent. Hey,
Eric
Vinny.
Carr, drummer, has been with the band since 1979. And Kiss is, by the way, the very first band that Eric has ever been with.
Okay.
No big shock so far.
Kiss is the first band that Eric was ever with? This is one of the drummers who replaced Peter Criss.
He just got enough box stops to be. So they
just like you, Mike.
All right, we'll let you in.
I think they had an outline on the wall, and it was like, your hair has to be this big. Like, oh, good. You get to ride the ride. You get to go on the Kiss ride.
It's funny. I was, lived in New York City around overlapping with when you did, John, back circa 1990, and in Village Voice, the alternative, long-standing alternative news weekly there. They would have in the classified ads all of these band ads, which were hilarious because it was kind of like the height of hair metal. Yeah. And you would have all these ads for these like hair metal bands that wanted to make it. And they would be like, bassist needed, must have hair, attitude.
Who is that band? Who did? Oh gosh! Oh, it's right at the tip of my mind here. Did you see the drummer's hair?
Oh yeah,
they're a '90s band. No big hair.
Yeah. Oh, I'm always terrible at name that tune, but I know that song.
Yeah.
Maybe one of our non-existent viewers will tell us.
Was that Weezer?
Leave it in the comments. We'll read it in a week.
Oh no, Pavement.
Oh yeah.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Yeah. So cut your hair.
That's a fun song. That is a really fun song. It's the opposite, I believe. It's about a band who doesn't want hair guys. Okay. So, yeah. So I don't know how much time we need to spend on this, but this is the official moment where, can I just say, having lived in the Valley in Los Angeles for about 20, 25 years, I saw Paul Stanley quite a few times. And anyone who's ever watched any of these shows knows my story, which is I would always see him when I was picking things up for my wife at Joann's Fabrics, because Paul Stanley is quite a good crafter, apparently, and a very nice man. It's so nice to see Paul Stanley and Joann's Fabrics and like these little women in their 60s. Like, I just want to say, I think you boys were wonderful. He'd be like, "Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks, appreciate it."
I say
Uh,
if this is a fair comment, I mean, going back to your earlier point, John, Gene Simmons to me looks the most straight laced of the four out of makeup.
Gene had a period of time where he looked so normal. Uh, and this was probably the peak of that moment because, okay, I'm just alleging this. I don't know this for a fact, but there has been a lot of talk in the last 10, 15 years about whatever he's trying to tell people is his hair. He has lost hair. He has replaced it. People are not buying it. He gets very mad. Seems to happen a lot. Yeah, I don't think there's too much to do here.
well, I do have to say though, one thing that's I find now I don't know if we are getting the full audio. But when they made those transitions from like, oh, here's the makeup picture, and now here's the real dude, it just
Yeah.
seemed so unexciting. Like if this kind of reveal would have been done now, you would have some kind of fireworks, some kind of sizzle to it. But this actually looks like it's like the open for like the People's Court or something.
Good point.
It's,
No,
yeah,
I mean that. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
I'm just gonna adding on to Mike's point. Maybe it almost seems like, well, we've gotten as much mileage as we can out of the mysterious makeup. So
Yeah.
let's just go ahead and take it off and show them what the heck.
Well, but I've talked with John about this. There is Kiss actually hit upon a brilliant career plan without planning it this way. And I think that this is applicable to a lot of other areas of creativity, that if you can get successful and have some kind of gimmick,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be makeup or something like that, but if you're known for a thing, you can ride that until as far as that can go. And then, the first phase of your career is gimmick, but then you can kind of get attention for yourself for the next phase, which is to de-gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And if, this is the best example of it. And then at some point when after things start dying, you got like one more arrow you can pull out of your quiver, which is re-gimmick, which is exactly what Kiss did. It's like,
Yeah.
people, when they took off the makeup, were like so excited, fans were like so excited by it. But then it was like, well, it was kind of more fun, with the star face and all that stuff. So they did it again. And then suddenly it's like people were excited all over again. So it's a pretty brilliant.
And when they did it the second time, so when they brought it back in the 90s, then they were doing wild stuff like merchandise that was bizarre. And my favorite one, and I really don't know if anyone ever bought it, but I really hope some people did, the Kiss coffin. Do you
I remember this. Yes.
It's a Kiss coffin. But I mean, all of the various Kiss things that have come out over the years. I have friends who, because as you know, I was in a dad band a couple years back, and the guys are mostly from Michigan, so they love, we fought a little bit about some of it. I'm not doing Cat Scratch Fever. Ted Nugent does not exist in my world. No. Oh, by the way, and I was the front man, so that's why I had a say in what we were doing. But oh my God, we were doing so many Kiss songs, and we were doing Cold Gin, And I was like, guys, I'm never going to learn this. So the bass player who hates singing would sing lead on Cold Gin. And then getting to know this song, his take on it was always so funny, which was it was written by someone who doesn't know anything about alcohol. Doesn't know. He doesn't. No one drinks cold gin. He's talking about going down to the liquor store and buying cold gin. No, they don't sell it cold. Like it's gin. But eventually they started selling in liquor stores cold gin, Kiss brand cold gin. Kind of
now, show of hands, who here has seen Kiss live in concert?
Oh my gosh. Well,
San Diego Sports Arena in 2009.
2009. Oh,
yes.
Wow.
So later years, definitely, but just
Yeah.
as kick-ass as ever.
Oh, absolutely. No, their last 20 years has still been really significant. That's what I admire the band. I really do admire the band.
I'm just surprised that you, based on what you're saying, John, about Gene Simmons being a little touchy about his alleged loss and reaccumulation of hair. He was and still is such a marketing genius. Why didn't he just market the Gene Simmons toupee while he was at it?
Honestly, yeah. What a good. See, this is why Joe's a writer, because he's got a mind. The man's got a mind, and he can think past these things. And seriously, it's Gene's weak spot. Like I don't know that Paul is innocent of this either, but vanity is a thing. Vanity plays a part.
Hey, if I had to trade a little bit of a rising hairline for Shannon Tweed, I know which one I'd pick.
Okay, let's go to a new subject. And this also comes from the sort of basic cable, obscure world. You're going to know it right away because this started very niche, very, very niche, and blew up. So I'm going to show you a clip that is from a BBC show. And so let me get the share screen going. And you're going to recognize it instantly. And this is from a Japanese laser disc. So I'm really trying to get us not kicked off for copyright reasons. But I might be hitting us right on the head with it. So let's see. This is from the best of Max Headroom.
Why I took it up.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the end of the previous thing is this interview with Rutger Hauer. I did not cue it up very well, but let's have a look.
Walking on golf courses.
Do
you have a set of golf clubs?
Yeah, half a set. Yeah.
Half a set?
Yeah.
You don't strike me as short enough to have half a set.
Well, I'd like to play a little better before I really get serious, but it's very nice. We walk, and it's very enjoyable. There's some deer out there, it's early in the morning, it's really good.
Birdies, eagles.
Yeah.
Golf
Owls.
Owls?
White owls.
Is that 400 par an owl? What can I say, Root Beer? You have been a gentleman, and I would like to thank you for being such a great guest.
He's calling Rutger Hauer Root Beer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Root Beer Hauer.
This is the clip I really wanted.
I was 400 for God's sake. Does anybody ever do anything around here? Goodness me. Okay. That's okay.
It's the pressure of being a star. You know how it is. Well,
Oh, yeah, sure.
But I do.
Matt Frewer.
Temperamental with the guys around me. You see, I'm the idol of millions, and that's the trouble. That's the trouble. They're idle, and I earn millions.
Okay, so right before he starts talking to Tracy Ullman, let's talk a little bit about Max Headroom.
Let's do it.
Matt Frewer playing Max Headroom. I don't think I'd ever watched that much of the talk show version of Max Headroom, which apparently is how a lot of people knew him. I had, do you fellas remember Cinemax, and this feels like 1984, maybe 85. I was living in the Hudson Heights apartments at Ithaca College. It was one of the years I was living there. And Cinemax had the Max Headroom series, which was the English version before the American version came out on ABC. And he was a character in this drama, and I believe Matt Frewer's character dies and only lives on as Max. And then in the American version, both exist. Does that sound right?
It does.
Maybe. I seem to. I didn't watch. Frankly, I didn't really watch much of either version. I didn't have Cinemax at the time, so wasn't able to see it. But it was kind of that pop cultural phenomenon, though, that was just all around for a while. And I seem to recall that when the character was first introduced, that in sort of this talk show, thing, that they were trying to not let on that it was a human being.
Right.
That they were promoting it as if it was an actual computer generated character.
Right. Which is funny because Space Ghost Coast to Coast was such a, heir to this style. And there's another thing, like we were all there in the 80s, the three of us, obviously. I remember the 80s being a real, like, there's a way of doing things that's like the really showbiz sort of standard Johnny Carson kind of way of doing things. And then there's the way where you kind of flip that on its head and you do it in a very sort of awkward way. And I can tell you, I don't know about you, Joe. I bet this is true, but this is definitely true of me and Sauter, which is we loved David Letterman.
Well, I was just absolutely, and I was just thinking that in an era when Letterman was so avant-garde and so opposite of Carson, to see something like Max Headroom and Space Ghost would have been really out there.
Yeah. And we should say, Space Ghost, that happened in the 90s. So, I got to give credit to the Max Headroom way of doing things. That was pretty cool. I actually like it a lot. I'm going to play a little bit of this Tracy Ullman interview, mostly because I love Tracy Ullman. And I've never seen this before this.
Who's very crumble?
Yes.
How did it all start for you? Who was it who first suggested you went to
I'm not
stage
really
school?
a Cockney person. If I think I'm getting so Cockney, I was brought up in Surrey and I used to talk like that, like Sarah Ferguson, and be really posh and say things like that. I really was.
Fergie
Absolutely.
means never having to say you're Surrey. Seeing you there all
I love
cuddly and warm without the use of a duvet, I'm beginning to feel all silly, broody. You want a second baby?
Matt Frewer, I think at the end of the 80s, had a sitcom on CBS called Dr. Doctor. And they were pretty much promoting him as like the next Robin Williams because he's such a great improviser, such a great ad-libber. But I mean, he's like, hey, Tracy Ullman, you want me to get you pregnant again? What? Dude, be cool.
Well, I remember really enjoying the ABC version of his show, but I also think that kind of signaled the death knell of the character as far as being unusual and bizarre, because it was pretty mainstream, at least as far as a Max Headroom series could be.
Absolutely. I remember Mike Sauter. I remember we were in our summer apartment back in Ithaca on Spencer Street. And I remember the Pepsi commercial. Do you remember that, Joe? There was a Max Headroom Pepsi commercial.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
and these kids are like riding their bikes in a dystopian future. They run into a TV that has Max on it, and at the end of it, one of the kids, they're like drinking Pepsi, and one of the kids goes, "I like him," and they like put the TV in like the basket on one of the bikes, and they ride away. I don't know how long the cord was on the TV. And I remember that moment going like, "Oh, when the 8-year-old kid likes him, I'm done. I'm out. Bye."
Well, not to
And
mention the fact you were kind of doing an homage to ET at that point. That's again kind of a death sentence mainstream wise.
Good point. Good point. Gross on every level.
Tracy Ullman fans, of course, will know that she just recently completed a great guest stint of the last couple of years on Curb Your Enthusiasm as Irma. Great character there. If you want to see her recent work, and who can forget her own show and the birthplace of The Simpsons?
Right. Tracy Ullman, a huge figure when you look back on it. Yeah, she's done a lot of. She's done various sketch shows. She's had many more than one, but yeah, her Fox show introduced the Simpsons. I was friends with one of the guys from the Tracy Ullman show, Sam McMurray. Sam did not have a part on The Simpsons. He was not a member of the family. And so I remember saying to him, like, did it ever piss you off that like they all got to go on to do The Simpsons? And he was like, I was such an idiot. At the time, I was like, hey, we get to go home. And then everybody's like, nope. Everybody except for you, Julie, Dan, everybody's got to go over to the sound studio and work on The Simpsons. But you can go home, Sam. And Sam's like, oh, yeah, I get to go home. And
then, keep working, suckers.
Then 10 years later, he and I are working on a pilot, a TV pilot that didn't get picked up. And I'm like, wow, you're working on this pilot, huh? And he's like, I'm working on all the pilots, kid. All the pilots. Like, I got to somehow make up for that stupid Simpsons money I didn't get.
Now, this is something real obscure. I hope I can give you enough information, guys, to find it on your own. I don't have all the details, but you'll find it on these creepy video YouTube things where, and the situation I think is somewhere, it was like a network hacking. Somebody interrupted network broadcast, and it was like very much a Max Headroom persona.
Yes.
And they never explained how he did it, who the guy was.
Yes. There are we can do this here on this show if anybody's ever interested. We can follow up on it. What I can tell you for sure is there are stories on YouTube where they tell the story of this. And the one I would suggest to you is called The Y Files. If you look up The Y Files and Max Headroom, you'll get the story. And it's one of my favorite podcasts is Y Files. So feel free to check that out. But we could always cover that if anyone wants to, because clearly there's so much more about Max Headroom. We could look at the fiction series. We could look more at that Japanese laser disc, because let's face it, a lot of good stuff on that.
And of course, his very brief pop career as well, recording the song Paranomia with The Art of Noise.
Oh my
gosh. You recall, the Art of Noise were kind of more of an instrumental band, or just having very little lyrics in their music. But they had this period in the mid to late 80s when they started teaming up with people. It actually wasn't a vocalist first, but they teamed up with they did the Peter Gunn theme with who was the legendary guitarist that they teamed up with? Dwayne Eddy. They did that, and then they did Kiss, the Prince song Kiss with Tom Jones.
And that was a great song.
Yeah, and Paranomia with Max Headroom, which was probably the most unexpected but the most 80s song ever. If you wanted to make a list of the most 80s songs ever, you'd have to put that somewhere as a contender.
And don't miss Matt Frewer subsequently as Trash Can Man in 1994's The Stand.
Oh, wow. Was he Trash Can? I never
He was
watched
Trash
that
Can in the
episode.
first version of The Stand for ABC. And
Oh,
10 years
wow.
later, a short part, I don't think the character was even named, but a short part in the Dawn of the Dead remake in 2004.
Matt Frewer, one of my absolute favorite actors. I have to say, I used to watch Dr. Doctor. I looked forward to it every week because he was very funny and very fast on his feet, and I was doing improv, and he was very inspirational. As a voiceover artist, I got to work in the booth with him once. Shook his hand, told him I was a big fan, left him alone. He was super nice, very quiet, about my height, about 6'4".
Yeah.
But Joe has already suffered, and people who watch the show have already suffered this. I am obsessed with the television program Sci Factor, Chronicles of the Paranormal. And after season 1 of the show did not go great, they added a big honking celebrity to the show, and that was Matt Frewer.
That's right. That did come up before you. Yeah, so a versatile man in all respects.
I mean, we're not even talking about the Generation X made-for-TV movie for Fox where he played the villain, whose name I don't even remember. But that was a thing too. He was in a superhero movie made for TV. We should get moving towards Night Flight. Now, I've been an insomniac my entire life. I fight it like crazy with, valerian root and melatonin and cannabis. And but I have always been a late night person, always been a night owl. And Mike, you've been able to, my memory of you is you could stay up kind of late. You could stay up till 1 or 2.
Oh yeah, I'm not an early riser by by any means, although I have had the misfortune of having to be a morning radio DJ for many years, which was not good for my nature, but it was, that's just the way it goes sometimes.
So good for your career. Honestly, overnight people are not where the money is. It's morning guys. They like morning guys in radio. I tried to be a morning guy for quite some time there. Joe, I don't know if you were ever a late night television guy in the 80s. Were you?
I was. It's amazing to me that, and as soon as we start watching some of Night Flight, I'm gonna say, of course I've seen this, or I'm familiar with it. But as I sit here at this moment, it's a new thing for me. I describe myself as a Night Flight virgin in the green room, and that's going to largely be true. Although the nature of the program is, of course, is well known to me. Yes, right. I was there for SNL. I was there for all kinds of MTV, all the above.
Yeah. So this is just music for a while, so I'm gonna kind of take that down. But Night Flight, for anyone who never knew anything about the show, basically on the USA Network, which was on almost everybody's basic cable.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the few channels that had original programming going on late at night. And by original programming, I mean they would basically collect a lot of videos, music videos, short films. There'd be clips from stand-up, a lot of concerts, and they would get shown, pretty much between the hours of, was it 11 and it started in okay. All right, started in 1981, June 5th. And it was a 4-hour show.
Tonight, to heavy metal symbolism. Metal music is often associated with antisocial behavior.
What I do remember is, and it must come after Night Flight. I do remember USA Up All Night, which ran on Fridays and Saturdays.
That replaced it. That replaced Night Flight. Yeah. And was a little more of a, a little more of a hosted thing. Can't remember.
Rhonda Sure, I believe, was Friday, and I can't remember the gentleman who did Saturday.
It could have been Gilbert Gottfried.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Imagine yourself in a new Toyota.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Please do not buy this product.
Yeah,
we're gonna get dinged for that.
I seem to remember Night Flight as being basically just whatever, anything goes video show, where as long as it was generally not the mainstream, or it could be, but there had to be some kind of interesting take on it. And because they would do theme shows, they would do full on feature films. You tune in some weeks and they would have they were mostly rock films. I remember the what is it, Ladies and Gentlemen, the Fabulous Stains.
Yes.
One of them they would show. Another State of Mind, the Social Distortion was one of the two bands featured. It was like an early documentary about them. They would show, I think I remember seeing the movie Smithereens.
Yes.
With Richard Hell, I think, was in that.
Richard Hell from Richard Hell and the Voidoids.
Yeah, they would show feature films, but they would just show like offbeat music videos.
Yes.
And stuff that you just could not see anywhere else. Experimental films. So it was definitely pretty much of its time, in the sense that that growing underground that was emerging in culture, whether it was in music and people who were just looking for something a little bit different than the monoculture that had come before it. This was kind of catnip for people like that.
One of the things to know is that there was a director of programming on Night Flight. I'm sorry, and the director of programming was named Stuart Samuels. Stuart Samuels was a former professor of history at the University of Pennsylvania. He also taught seminars at the annual Cannes Film Festival. He had authored a book on cult films called Midnight Movies. And here he was, pretty much the curator of a lot of the clips and videos that would go into Night Flight. So we're not just talking about, some mid-level manager over at USA was doing this. Like, they got a guy. They actually had quite a few people who were pulling really interesting stuff for the show. As Mike mentions, there were some very powerful independent features that were shown on Night Flight, and I'll just rattle off a couple. Andy Warhol's Dracula, Andy Warhol's Frankenstein. Let's see, Dementia 13 appeared on Night Flight. So did Eating Raoul, which was a big cult movie back in the day. Clips from Eraserhead, Rock and Rule, which was a animated rock cartoon. The Rocky Horror Picture Show clips were shown. Erg, A Music War, they showed clips from that. They also had, and this was one of my favorites, there was a black and white indie movie called I Was a Zombie for the FBI.
I gotta see that one.
I remember watching that one on Night Flight. Fritz the Cat.
Oh.
Fritz the Cat, which had been rated X in the 70s, was shown, clips of it, shown on Night Flight. And I actually was going to show like a little clip of this. J-Men Forever. Have you ever heard of that one?
No.
Because, guys, that is right up your alley. Right up your alley. Basically, it's Peter and Phil from Fireside Theater. And they did the What's Up Tiger Lily thing, where they took old movie serials, and they revoiced them. and renamed all the characters. And I was like, we're going to watch a piece of this. And I watched a piece of it and I went, nope, we're going to watch the whole thing on some other episode because this is just too good. It's just too good. It's amazing. J-Men Forever. We're going to be watching that sometime in the future.
You got to come back for that, Mike.
Yeah, you want to come back for that one, Mike?
Yeah, that sounds cool. I mean, one of the things that also was kind of in my memory, the thing that really stood out about this is the whole idea of having short form programming as a block, was kind of a new thing because MTV had kind of paved the way for the idea that people would just watch a 4-minute thing, and then it's a different 4-minute thing, and then a different and you could just string that together into a whole network in that case. But although there had been like compilation films, like your Kentucky Fried Movie, those kinds of things, you'd be able to see like little interstitial short films if you remember back in the day on HBO. The movie would end at like 10 of the hour, and so they'd have to fill with sometimes a music video or a short film of some kind before the next thing started. And so this was just taking all that stuff that you couldn't see anywhere, and they would always try to like theme things together. They did a couple of really good Cold War. There was a film called Atomic Cafe where it took a lot of Cold War era films of various kinds and kind of put it into a documentary. They were doing that on Night Flight as well, where you'd see all these like kind of civil defense shorts, but then it would go from that into like a Devo video that would be sort of commenting on that fear. So it would kind of have these great themes running through the shows.
There was a tremendous thing in the 80s of looking back at things with zero nostalgia, zero affection. And they would show like health films and as Mike says, like the duck and cover films. And I always thought of the 80s as being the time when we would start making wise ass comments about things that had been so accepted by our grandparents and our parents. And one of the things that I'd like to show is actually a piece of programming that did get shown on Night Flight. It was shown a bunch of different places, and you guys will know it as soon as you see it. You'll hopefully be delighted to see it. Okay, there we go. There we go. I present to you Bambi meets Godzilla.
Oh, no. Oh, look at Bambi. So gentle and sweet.
And there weren't a lot of places where this would get played on television. So Night Flight was one of the few. Although I have to say, I think there was an animation festival special that was shown on public television. I think that's the first time I saw this. Marv Newland just milking it. Choreography by Marv Newland.
Bambi's Wardrobe.
Bambi's Wardrobe, produced by Marv Newland. Marv Newman, produced by Mrs. Newland. Yes.
Oh, those little legs sticking out.
Don't they twitch?
The legs don't twitch, but the toenails do.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
The end.
But I'm not seeing it. Not seeing any twitching. Gratefully acknowledge the city of Tokyo.
Maybe here right at the very end, huh?
For their
Come on, Bambi, show us some signs of life.
Bambi, can you hear me? Oh, this is so sad. There you go.
There you go.
There we go. There's this way.
But that became, that back in the it's kind of like when you watch early commercial parodies on Saturday Night Live now. They're so tame. They're so the fact that it is a fake commercial sometimes is the joke. There's no real added joke on top of that in the very earliest ones. And those kinds of things like that, Bambi meets Godzilla, that became legendary. Like if you saw it, you told all of your friends about it, and then people were like, I have to see that, but you couldn't just go out and see it. So it was kind of one of those things where when you finally saw it, it was like, yes,
Either that or was part of an obscure film pops league. Mike, you mentioned Kentucky Fried Movie, one of my favorites. And I'm always telling people about this particular commercial parody where I was devastated when the girls came over for a bridge club. First lady walks in. Oh, fish for dinner last night? Next lady. Oh, is Harv smoking cigars again? Third and final lady. Christ, did a cow shit in here? That's it. Never knew what the product was. I guess presumably an air freshener.
The point that our buddy Steve Arviso, aka Amoral Crackpot, brings up is this was paired with Godzilla 1985, which I saw and loved.
Yes, same here.
On the VHS release, this was a feature on the Godzilla 1985. I had no idea. It's also the only release of that film in the US. Yeah, it was not easy to find, and that's one of the things that Night Flight was good at.
Well, I would hazard to guess that particular VHS release of Godzilla 85, Bambi Meets Godzilla, is probably a little bit more popular than the presence of Raymond Burr in the feature film. I'm just guessing.
It was such a weird movie because there were these moments of oh my God, what's his name again? Joe, you just said it.
Oh, Raymond Burr.
Raymond Burr. So there's these moments of Raymond Burr, older, and he's sitting in a room, a dark room, and I think he's like on a microphone telling us what's going on, and like right behind him is a giant Dr. Pepper machine, a Dr. Pepper vending machine. Like, wow, that's
product placement.
Yeah, that's some awkward product placement there.
Well, I mean, this was Raymond, diverging for a moment from Bambi, but no, this is Raymond Burr's second and final Godzilla movie appearance after the very first Godzilla in 1955.
Yes.
And, that was an oddball movie. Some parts were in Japanese with subtitles. Other parts were badly dubbed into English, and the remaining parts were in English.
Yeah. I even think in 1985, they brought back Paul Frees, who was a very famous voiceover artist, and he was doing most of the Japanese characters. And it was like, well, let's talk to the doctor right now. Hello, I'm the doctor. How are you? Oh, we're fine. It's like, it's the same voice. It's the same guy voicing everybody.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Raymond Burr definitely phoned his performance in that particular effort.
It was so funny to me because his character's name was Steve Martin. It was like they couldn't even change that. Like, come on, we all have different expectations of what a Steve Martin is now.
And
well, John, are you actually calling for a continuity error in a Godzilla movie? Shame on you.
John, talking about the awkward product placement or overt product placement, we do have to acknowledge that this period of time was the absolute most shameless period of product placement in probably the history of film or pop culture, because was it in Ghostbusters? I mean, the mid 80s, just so much, just like, you might as well be shining spotlights, like key lights, like right on all the products that paid for placement in there. I think it was Ghostbusters. There was a scene where when Bill Murray was talking to Sigourney Weaver by her fridge, and there was a Coke can in there, and the Coke can changed its angle depending on what the shot was.
So it's always facing you.
Yeah, right. So you can just see the logo. I think that's the one. But it was just so much shameless product placement. And
Mike, that would be more. That'd be more subtle when compared to like Superman throwing General Zod into a big illuminated Coke sign.
Yeah, true.
In Times
True.
Square. Not to mention Zod throwing him through a Marlboro truck. And having KFC afterwards for a snack.
Okay. I know this isn't a contest, and yet I'm being competitive, and I apologize for that. All of this is lovely and charming next to the James Bond film Moonraker.
Oh,
where they like kidnap James Bond, put him in an ambulance. The ambulance is driving up a mountain, and it keeps driving past billboards for like Seiko watches, like, you know, Acura cars. And they're not. It's not product placement. It's just like, hey, look at this ad. Okay, now look at this other ad. Okay, now he's at the top of the mountain. One more ad. I do want to thank Steve Arviso for throwing this into the conversation. Godzilla King of Monsters, the original Godzilla movie, and Godzilla 1985 were edited and spliced in additional U.S. footage to flesh it out for American audiences. Yes, definitely. Also, 1985 is a direct sequel to King of Monsters. Yeah. That was something that we knew watching it. Like, I think they had referenced that, and it's cool in that I've never watched a Godzilla movie. All right, one of them. There's only one Godzilla movie I ever saw that I regretted watching, and that was Godzilla's Revenge, which I believe is the one where it's a little kid learning to stand up to his bully at school, and he imagines that he's friends with Godzilla's son.
Godzuki?
And he wasn't even called Godzuki. I don't even know if there was a name for him. When he tried to shoot the blue ray out of his mouth, just smoke rings would come out. Do you remember?
Oh,
It's just directly a kid's movie. That was the only one where I was like, ugh. But I've loved every Godzilla movie I've ever seen other than that. I mean, even the Matthew Broderick one. Good heavens. All right, I'm going to show you another bit. This is another sort of thing that you would find on Night Flight. This is very much. Oh gosh, what did I do here? No, not that. I'll close that. Come on, open this. All right, okay. I know. Eventually, we got to get a kid to do this for me. Because seriously, watching the old man do this is terrible.
Nancy's joining me because the message this evening is not my message, but ours.
Okay, so just a little background for anybody who doesn't know. First off, this is President Ronald Reagan and the First Lady Nancy Reagan. Nancy Reagan, in the great tradition of First Ladies, had a cause that she was dedicated to, and that cause was to get people to say no to drugs. And her whole program was called Just Say No.
Just Say No.
And now that you know that, let's watch the Reagans once again.
Nancy's joining me because the message this evening is not my message, but ours. Despite our best efforts, shortages of marijuana are now being reported. From the early days of our administration,
great reaction, Sean,
has been using marijuana on a daily basis, and her personal observations and efforts have given her such dramatic insights that I wanted her to share them with you this evening.
This is all edited
right now.
Share the message that drugs open your eyes to life, to see it in the vivid colors that God gave us as a precious gift to his children.
And drug abuse is not a crime. Drugs and excessive alcohol are used by former Attorney General Meese.
Drugs help us create love and hope and trust and confidence.
Being friends to others is the best way of being friends to ourselves.
It's up to us to change attitudes and just simply enjoy life to the fullest.
And in the most important area, individual use, we see progress. The U.S. military has more than tripled the use of drugs among its personnel since 1980. Tonight, I can report to you that Vice President Bush smoked marijuana regularly.
What?
And there's one more thing.
Editing, kids. It's all
Nancy
editing.
and I are hooked on heroin.
Each of us was once strung out on several drugs.
Here in the White House, drugs are a constant temptation, but we still have much to do. Our goal is to expand drug trafficking at all levels of government and in the private sector. Help us.
Obviously, we heavily edited this piece. Besides, some people don't need to take drugs to be dopey.
Did they start doing that like midway through the clip? Because I was buying it until then.
Yeah, I think they were carefully edited from the very beginning. It's pretty impressive.
It got me.
That's why all the awkward sort of hostage style reaction shots from Nancy to kind of cover up some of the editing.
Right, you knew you could go back to that one shot, which I just loved.
Which I don't know who put that together, but I don't know if you've ever seen videos from. There was a group called EBN, Emergency Broadcast Network, and they did some videos in the early '90s where they would do this kind of thing. But their perhaps most well-known product was they did a version of "We Will Rock You" featuring Clinton and George Bush during the '92 election season. So, it was pretty awesome where they just kind of had this big beat to it, and you just had both. They'd scoured, to get the right words of just like Clinton's, like we will rock you, and then it's like, George, let's do it together, and so they both join in, and it's really, really well done audio, and they had a video to go along with it too, so worth checking out.
I think the only thing that could undo the effectiveness of this very funny clip that caught me off guard was that subsequently Nancy in real life would go on to sit on Mr. T's lap and advise Arnold on different strokes to just say no.
Nancy did her job. I just want to say Nancy Reagan was a first lady, although we have heard a lot of stories that apparently she was very popular in Hollywood for
back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. She had been an actress, just as Ronnie had been an actor.
Nancy Davis at the time.
That's right. That's right. And I don't know that any of these stories are true, but there are some pretty wicked stories out there about Miss Davis.
Hey, I bet Ronnie was no angel either back then.
Oh, I'm sure he wasn't. I can tell you he wasn't.
Hey, one thing I definitely wanted to just a tip of the hat to is that Night Flight was not hosted. There was not a person who would be on camera hosting, but it was all done in VO, and I think her name was Pat Prescott.
Yes.
I think she was a radio host who they tapped to do the work on Night Flight, and she had a great voice and did a great job at just kind of linking segments, and she could do the wry, ironic type of tone in her voice, as well as just the straightforward, here's, just introducing stuff. So it was, she was great.
Well, I'll tell you guys, see if you agree, being veteran Night Flight viewers, but it strikes me, what it reminds me, there was a short-lived 6-week series called The Naked Gun. Actually, it's called Police Squad.
Right.
Which was made into the movies later, The Naked Gun.
That's right.
And the big reason for its so-called failure was that you had to pay attention. It wasn't passive. I get the impression Night Flight was very much the same way. It wasn't something you just had on in the background. You had to sit there and watch it to appreciate what was going on.
There was a very funny line that doesn't seem all that original, but it's so true, which is they used to call Night Flight MTV for stoners.
I can see it.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I think you'd have at any given moment, you'd have probably 4 different types of people watching. There was like people who were like, whoa, man, this is crazy, stoner types. there would be people who were just sort of like in that liminal state between awake and sleep.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of, this is like,
Yeah.
it just like the stoners, it's like some of this isn't making any sense whatsoever, but it's just interesting. And I think that there was that college undergrad type of personality watching it, who was taking in all the fine details of everything. And then the perplexed channel surfer. Because, especially back in those days, you would just like go around and scan the dial and be like, it's like, oh, infomercial. What the hell is this?
Yeah. I mean,
so we don't want to, this Friday Night Videos is garbage. Let's see if something else is on USA.
Yeah, I have to say I was so lucky because I grew up in northern New England. So I lived for a little while as a kid in Massachusetts, and then next we lived in Maine, and then I lived in New Hampshire. And so our TV was okay, but it wasn't great. You couldn't really get the UHF channels where I lived, and there was really nothing to watch on TV most of the time. I went to school in Ithaca, New York with Mike Sauter, and we were getting New York stations. So we were getting Channel 11. We were getting Channel 9 out of Secaucus. We were getting, Channel 5. And there would be like these sort of automatic UHF kind of channels. There might be a little more to watch on those. You might catch The Honeymooners or, some other black and white show late at night. But yeah, channel surfing, as you were saying, Mike, channel surfing was a mysterious thing to do. And here I am at 2 a.m. Most of my life, 2 a.m., I'm wide awake. That's like my prime time. And nothing to watch. So on the weekends, I always looked forward to Night Flight, had no idea what I'd be watching. I'm going to now take us over to... There are videos that people have put up on YouTube. God bless them, too. I'm so happy that these people did this. They would take like half an hour or an hour of Night Flight and just put it up with commercials. So the last segment of our show right now, we're just going to watch a little bit of that. If you guys want me to pause it or fast forward it at any point, we could do that. I actually don't know which one to choose from because they're both pretty... Oh, I know exactly what to do. Okay, hang on. I'm going to show you. They would do this. Even when I was working in basic cable, they would do this. They would put together a special of your series, so then they could show it to advertisers. So there'd be this sampler, and they would probably put it on a VHS tape, and they would probably send it everywhere. And, if probably ad buyers would get these most of the time, because then they could go, oh, hey, Casablanca Records, you should consider advertising during Night Flight. A lot of people will buy Casablanca Records who watch this, so you should do that. Referencing, of course, the Kiss album commercial from earlier. All right, so I want to show you this. Now, I'm going to show you just a little bit of this because I really want you to see this contest they had going. Because, oh my God, imagine winning the most 80s prizes you could win. Not only that, but it's related to one of my favorite movies of all time, but certainly my favorite movie from the 80s. And Mike, you will recognize it immediately. And Joe, you will as well. And Steve, watching at home, you will as well. Okay, here we go.
Late night audience, concerts and cult classics never before seen on TV. Features such as Neil Young's Rust Never Sleeps, Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Plays Berkeley, Bob Marley and Reggae Sunsplash. Okay. The London Rock and Roll Show with timeless performances by Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Little Richard.
I'm going to jump ahead.
Footage from Jim Morrison and the Doors and stars. Night Flight dares to be different by going outside the mainstream to bring you tomorrow's filmmakers today. Night Flight is the
Of course, Van Halen's
Whoa.
Jump being played in the background because you could get away with that back in the day.
To deliver the best in video art. Everybody's coming to join Night Flight's 3rd anniversary special. Tonight, we look at Night Flight today. We'll show you uncensored videos from David Bowie, Duran Duran, Mel Brooks, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and the Rolling Stones, plus Culture Club, Eurythmics, Cyndi Lauper, Huey Lewis, heavy metal from
Look at those video effects.
Also tonight, a
Oh
special
my
treat.
god.
You know, I almost made myself Boy George in the promo work.
That would have been funny.
The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Supremes.
I'm sure there'll be other opportunities.
I'm sure.
The Who, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, and Marvin Gaye. The best of Night Flight's video art, featuring Laurie Anderson.
Oh
the
my
latest
God.
in computer
Okay, here it
images,
comes.
the hottest experimental music videos, the Jimi Hendrix Videogram. And get ready for Night Flight's Comedy and Cult Hour, featuring Rocky Horror Picture Show, Lenny Bruce, Night Flight's 7-minute version of Reefer Madness, comedian
7-minute version of Reefer Madness. Love it.
W.C. Fields, Charlie Chaplin, the Marx Brothers, Bugs Bunny, the Three Stooges.
Talk about an eclectic mix.
Godzilla, and many other surprises.
Wait a minute. I didn't
What's going
sign
on
up for
here?
that.
Tonight, during 3 different videos, the Ghostbuster logo will appear. Identify these 3 videos and the 3 videos the Ghostbusters logo appeared in Friday night, and be eligible to win Night Flight's Ghostbusters giveaway.
Oh, here it comes, guys.
The prize is an Isuzu pop truck, which you can drive to your special screening of Ghostbusters.
You can drive it.
The prize is the state-of-the-art Sony Beta Hi-Fi Stereo VCR and the collect.
Dude.
Oh.
Beta. Not VHS. Beta. You're
And this is
giant.
like after the format wars were already done at this point. Beta had already lost, so they got clearance.
I mean, don't you guys think that Betamax and HD DVD got raw deals? Come on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They were perfectly good formats. It's just, they weren't the ones that won. Okay, so you see over at the side of this entertainment,
with that huge 19-inch set.
Yeah. So the wire rack there. What are those? I wondered. Check it out.
Of today's hottest music on Sony Video 45s and LPs.
Sony Video 45s and LPs for videos. Do you remember this at all, guys?
I do. I mean, they when music video hit, the music industry, they just weren't exactly sure how to profit from it maximally.
Right.
And so I think the Video 45 was, well, let's take something that's well established in the just audio only world, and let's see if we can sell a video with just a couple of songs on it for the music video, which did not really work that well because there was really not the same sense of value for that. So I think quickly they went to more long form music video compilations.
I think you guys have just solved a mystery for me from years ago. One of my prized possessions used to be my Laserdisc player. And I remember the tray that came out had little descending trays for different size discs. And there was one size. I said, what is that for? I bet it was for the Video 45.
Yeah, could have been. Now I'm just going to jump ahead. Okay. Comedian Rich Scheidner, everybody. Love Rich Scheidner. I'm actually friends with him on Facebook. But here's Spitting Image.
Oh, yes. These guys are great. God, Mick looked ancient 40 years ago. Y'all look like they're carved out of rotting oranges or something.
Actually, wait, can you pause for a sec?
I sure can.
That's perfect.
What's really funny is this looks exactly like a prompt that you put a prompt into, like a video AI generator or a picture AI generator, and this is their version of photorealistic that would come out of it.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Oh God. I mean, look, Linda's been gone for so long that I don't even remember a time when I was okay with someone being so brutal to her. I mean, oh God. And I'd forgotten on Spitting Image that their character has an American accent, which this is an English show, so they're like, ugh. The fact that she allegedly doesn't remember that it's Paul she's married to, and she keeps calling him Ringo. It's so damn mean.
Oh,
so cruel.
But it's
okay.
It's kind of like Max Headroom, because when they brought it, to a kind of a homogenized American version, it kind of went away after that.
Yeah, I remember that. And then, do you remember DC Follies? Was that the?
Yeah.
They had one with political characters that were, oh God. Every time they try to do that, a cartoon called Capital Critters, or DC Follies, they just take the edge out of these things that are built in the English version, just smooth it out and make it terrible. Okay. One last thing I'm going to have you guys.
I'm just sad that one of my childhood memories doesn't include. I was just gonna say, I regret now that one of my childhood memories from the 80s does not include me driving to the Ghostbusters premiere in my new Isuzu pickup. That would have been a precious memory right there.
That was worded so strangely too, because like, you can get this Isuzu pickup to drive to the big movie premiere. Do I get to keep it after though? Do I have to give it back?
Loader.
Movie premiere's over. Give it up. Wasn't there something with the John Mellencamp Pink House that you would win from MTV? There was like some terrible, it was built on a toxic dump or something.
I don't remember that, but
just a rumor.
The thing though, it wasn't a pink house; it was just a regular house. But because then you were going to paint the mother pink.
Yeah, paint that mother pink. John Mellencamp. I was very late to get on that bandwagon, but I got to tell you, he is cool. I do like him. All right, here we go. We're just going to skip through some stuff. Now, they would do a thing on Night Flight. It was called Night Flight. So they would have Night Flight Takes Off, and they would show you about an hour of videos on a theme. So this one is Night Flight Takes Off to Crime. So we're going to have some videos here. And again, I can fast forward. I can pause. You guys tell me. And I'm crossing my fingers that this stuff is so obscure, we won't get copyright hits on it.
It's all fun, guys.
First off, I have to ask, what do you think is going on here?
Well... There are advantages being a 5'4" man, I guess.
It's kind of nice to know that there was a Linda Carter back in the 40s.
Yes. Well, hence the time that Wonder Woman would be doing her thing. So,
this is Diana Prince. She is very charmed by this guy. I guess she knew the boob thing was going to happen.
Nightlight brings you vice, villains,
Pat
and
Prescott
sins as we take off to crime. Next.
Of course, the Peter Gunn theme in the background.
You guys were easy last year.
Commercial.
Whoa, come on, admit it. You cheated. Cheated? Us? That guy was a rare. That guy was a monster. Besides, much good for your complexion. Hey, don't forget. We let you share our beer. Remember? That trap beer was unbelievable. That was. Sure was. Drinking Miller Genuine.
Remember that beer we had that time? Yeah, it was a good beer. You want another beer? Yeah. Let's have a beer.
And maybe it's just my own memory, but I just rarely remember people who are major Miller Genuine Draft drinkers having such coiffed hair.
First, I thought you were going to say Yeah, at first I thought you were going to say you don't remember there being any fans. And I'm like, well, I can think of a couple of guys I knew who liked it. And then you're like, who had nice hair. And I'm like, no, you are right.
Well, they knew they'd be on YouTube 40 years later, so they made sure they were properly coiffed.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, another thing I find hilarious about this commercial, I mean, these are nice shots. Those are always nice, the product shots with the pizza in the background. But here's mud in your eye. Ha, 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 ha. And now, okay, any guesses as to what this one's for?
Oh,
there you go.
No time to guess. Some nice, refreshing Wrigley's. Let's go to the beach, put on our swimsuits, and have some gum.
Didn't I just watch this guy drinking beer?
Well,
I guess there's a
that's
look.
fresh his breath now.
Now, I don't know if they're going to show anyone else about to eat the piece of Wrigley's. Okay, here's the thing. I auditioned for a Wrigley's gum commercial in the 90s. They made us watch a movie, a VHS. They made us watch a little instructional video on how you put Wrigley's gum in your mouth. Okay, you push it against your tongue so that it makes a dome. She's doing it exactly right. So watch what she does. This is exactly how we were all told to put the gum in our mouths for this commercial. Yep, and then the smile. This girl's a pro.
Let's see how he does it now.
Oh, sorry. Oh, no, I
See how the baby does it.
Well, it seems like the baby, the baseball, and the beach are all hazardous conditions under which to chew gum anyway. But
so this is a local commercial. Mike, Chestnut Hill, Germantown Ave. Does any of this sound familiar? 215 area code.
Philadelphia, right?
Is that Philadelphia?
I think it's Philly area.
Interesting, because I wasn't able to pick it out. Oh, and this is such a commercial. It's a TJ Maxx commercial. But this is so 80s. Like, where are we? What is this? I mean, granted, she's at the store.
Big and bold and colorful. That's the 80s.
Oh, rollerblades. It's so stylized, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Pleasantville, New Jersey.
John, are you trying to say that, back in the 80s when it rained, you didn't just run out with your Dayglow umbrella and dance?
I love the guy in the bar who's just like, get out of my bar. Stop doing that with your hand.
This ain't that type of bar.
Yo, weirdo. This isn't that kind of bar. Get out of here with your giant shoulder blades. I'm sorry, your giant shoulder pads. I don't know if anybody remembers groovy movies.
I do.
Never really watched them.
I just always thought this guy was kind of a weird choice for groovy movies.
Yeah.
Coming up with Elvira and now Svengoolie, who I've recently become aware of.
And Svengoolie, I think, has been doing it for a long time.
He has. He's just now on MeTV, and I have to drop his name again. Tony got me going on when I was visiting with him. So
yeah. Oh no, big tip of the hat to Svengoolie. That's the job I always wanted. I always wanted the Count Floyd job.
Yes, I don't know what this character was for groovy movies, but never quite meshed in my mind as I recall.
Captain USA, and it was like, because it's hilarious that kind of a shabby guy with a big wet cigar is introducing these movies.
Okay, so it was a knockoff of the network, not so much the show.
Yeah, exactly. It was
yeah.
It was exactly what Joe Bob Briggs would do better.
Okay.
Well, although with USA back then, never put it past the idea that they were just hiding shoddy production values with irony, because they if memory serves, they used to have, I don't remember what it's called, but they had some like afternoon cartoon show, and it was
Cartoon Express.
Cartoon Express, that's it. Yeah, and there was this guy Gene. But there was a guy, Gene, a drawn character who was the host of the show, and he wasn't even animated. It was just still drawings that they would just cut between with just some guy doing a VO over it. So it very low grade kind of production value sometimes.
Now, this is a video, and I think there's some reference to the Great Train Robbery and an 80s version of the film. But Sauter, I chose this one for you because when you see the name of the artist, you're going to be very excited.
That's more money than most people can dream of. But then some people have big dreams.
More than sorry, everybody. That you know that actor. I got it.
No, that line. That was part of a music video.
That's part of the music video. Yes.
Well, I recognize this guy.
Is it Paul Hardcastle?
It is. It is.
Just for Money, I think was the song.
And was that Bob Hoskins later?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you remember playing this on the air, Mike?
I do. In our college station, we had a 12-inch with a kind of a soft paper sleeve for it. But yeah, it was kind of, I think, like the follow-up to 19, which never quite obviously got very far compared to 19. But it was that same kind of using found sound, with the electronic music.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, and I'd always wondered about this, one of the things that Night Flight can claim, and it may or may not be true, but the claim was they were the first music video programming to put up the name of the director.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I'd always wondered who did that first, because that to me was always like, yeah, I care who the directors are of music videos.
I would guess Night Flight did it even for MTV, only because they were showcasing other types of clips where they would credit a director.
Yeah, I think there were certain shows on MTV. 120 Minutes comes to mind, where they would tell you who the director was. And I know that they would push certain directors like Julian Temple.
Well, that was, and I think like 120 Minutes, I think was a little bit later. But I think that what happened was you started to have these big budget videos that they started getting named directors for. And so once that started to happen, I think there was a lot more, you wanted to pump the fact that it was like a Hollywood director directing this video. So I think that's when they started doing that on MTV.
Timothy Hutton directing Drive for the Cars. Right? Yeah, I believe he was the one who did that. I don't know anything about this movie, but it's a Paul Hardcastle video. So
yeah, it was just a lot of clips from gangster and heist films that they sampled from.
All right, so I'm jumping ahead. Oh, and we got to know.
Sentenced to a total of 307 years.
Laurence Olivier making that money.
Oh yeah.
Bob Hoskins. Oh, Bob Hoskins was awesome.
Well, here's a lost talent right here, in my opinion.
I have heard stories about Joe Piscopo that would curl your hair.
Because for years, he and Eddie Murphy were, the Aykroyd and Belushi of SNL.
That's right.
And then Murphy skyrocketed, and he just kind of faded out.
Yeah, he was a little bit of a jerk, from what I've been told.
I've heard the same, and I think the last thing I remember seeing him in was a bad episode of Star Trek Next Generation.
Oh my gosh, that's right. He's
He played
he's
the
a
comic in the holodeck.
yeah, he's a hologram who's trying to teach
Data
how to tell a joke. Sorry, I didn't realize I was showing an L. Ron Hubbard commercial.
Into
Hey,
Herbalife.
everybody.
Herbalife.
Mark Hughes. You know what's good? Herbalife. That's good. You should sell that stuff.
That logo looks a little suspicious, I think.
Oh, is this a commercial for Max Headroom? Didn't even mean to do this. Or is this a music video? Oh,
Nope.
there you go. The
There was
ABC
ABC
version.
promo. Yeah.
Oh, I think I'm going to have to skip past this one because even though I love the band, the sound is not good on this particular video for some reason. I mean, I haven't turned the sound down. I've actually turned it up. That actor, might remember him as the old man with the bell on Breaking Bad.
Oh yes. Yes, indeed.
You'll get a better shot of him soon. I do love that the video is very instructional as to how to elope and steal a car.
All while not, disturbing your father.
Golden Earring.
Wow.
I don't know the song very well, but I do like the band. But that's the sound. It's not good. So we're gonna.
It's good to know that Golden Earring had more than 2 songs.
Yeah. When the bullet hits the bone.
The Twilight Zone and Radar Love, right?
Radar Love, yes. All right.
Actually,
so
I
I just
I was just going to say I have a friend who's a Golden Earring fan who would knock me senseless if he heard me say that.
I don't know a lot about them except for the 2, bigger hits. But I do really like those songs. And this just doesn't sound good. No Thelma and Louise ending here, folks.
No. But it does harken back to a cool time when videos would tell a story.
Yeah. Okay.
Do this one simple thing every morning to
So
flush.
sorry. So sorry. Let me get past this. Hang on. Steve did make a comment about this that I do want to oh shoot. He had a great line, and it was basically, John, you got to get the next level of here it is. Pay for YouTube Premium, John. And see all the other things you've been saying. Oh, let's see. Okay. Steve also says, according to Wikipedia, Night Flight was the first place to show directors' names on the videos, interview the bands, create band profiles. I don't know what that means. Air uncensored videos. Yes, that's true. That is very, I mean, all of these things are true. Yeah. And to air long form remix videos. And, all right, so let's get back to getting out of this. Folks, please do not give this advertiser your business because they're not paying for this. I just sort of accidentally did this. All right. Come on. Oh, I can just hit.
I'll just have to find some other way to cover my clogged up eyes, I guess.
Okay. Who is Tony Powers? How did a song called Don't Nobody Move, This Is a Heist ever exist? Who is Brian Owens? What is Translux Records? Can you answer any of these questions, Mike?
I cannot answer any of these questions except to say that that's one of the problems of doing a theme for your videos is because I've been into the situation with having to create themes with music for the radio, and it's like, oh, I've got all these great songs that fit the theme, but not quite enough to fill an hour, so I'm going to pad it out with songs no one's ever heard of.
Right.
Well, if not for this video, though, we would never have seen that.
That's true.
Some nerdy guy lifting his shirt for us.
And I'm betting that this was shot in New York, and that guy was not paid. He just came up and did it.
Is this a character played by Tim Roth, the guy they were just showing?
Could be.
While his landlord made a payoff so that he controlled his slum with his untold powder written in my
Interesting vocal style here.
It is. It is. That's a lot of spit for a music video.
Yes. Kind of like Ernest T. Bass on Quaaludes type of quality.
I do love the fact that they're using mannequins and saxophone. These are, ooh, hello. I really like the way the line goes down the back of the stocking. So Tony Powers is who you get if you can't afford Lou Reed?
I don't know, but I'm actually just looking him up, and apparently he wrote a couple of Kiss songs.
Oh my gosh. It comes back around.
Yeah.
They was towing me away because I don't have diplomat plane. While it's diplomat, I know smuggles H into the States.
Oh.
I said, let me have the ticket.
Wow.
Face the
Back
good.
around.
There's another theme.
Oh.
Oh, he took it too far.
Talk about bursting a bubble.
I just want to say to any of the kids watching this who, like me, have a big nose, or like Tony Power, have a big nose. The ladies do like a big nose sometimes.
I don't know. This is like the I don't know this guy really, but I'm just getting a vibe of some executive saying like, "Get me some slightly or more videogenic Leon Redbone."
Exactly. Leon Redbone. Oh my God! Yeah, because ever since Joe mentioned the style, the vocal style, I was like, oh shit. Steve Arvizo saying Larry Storch was an 80s pop idol.
Who would have known?
Kids, those were something called phone booths.
Well, although we called them booths, even though they weren't at this point.
That's true. Who knows the name of the characters that Howard Johnson used to use? Hang on, I can take it back there.
Characters?
Yeah, you guys
Characters.
I didn't realize they had characters. I was just Howard.
Okay, so wait, I think we're gonna get another shot of it. Tony. All right. Oh, okay. So I didn't know this. I actually found this out a few years ago when I was doing a series on Tumblr about restaurant mascots. And something that most people don't know. Okay, I blew past it again. I'm sorry, everybody. This is really the sort of thing I should edit. Okay, so behind him are the Howard Johnson mascots. Okay, I'm going to try one more time, and if I don't get it, I just don't get it, and I'll just tell you. But that's Simple Simon and the Pieman.
Boy, that is new to me.
Yes. Simple Simon met a pieman going to the fair. Right. That whole thing inspired the characters of Simple Simon and the Pieman. I can't remember the name of the dog. It's probably Howard Johnson. But they were the characters behind Howard Johnson. And at one point, Howard Johnson actually had comic books about the adventures of Simple Simon and the Pieman.
I do remember that. I can see now why they're out of business, however, because they had 3 less flavors than Baskin Robbins. They couldn't compete.
Right down to the orange fruit fun.
I never remember the comics there, but I remember there used to be comic books at the Big Boy restaurants.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I think
he was the lead character. Right up front.
I don't know, Tony Powers. I mean, you clearly had your own style, so I'll give you. Oh God, the buildup of all of the sauerkraut on that hot dog. This is the main thing that I wanted.
Treat Williams.
I was like,
This
I
better
don't
not
know.
end. This better not end with a body part to the face gag.
Not now, please.
I don't know who Tony Powers is, but he got Treat Williams to get naked for his video. And we had done a sketch, Mike, for remember the character I did, Johnny Torso?
Yeah.
And Brian De Palma is doing a music video that the musician wants to have nothing to do with. And one of the scenes is they catch him in the shower. It happened. It was actually real. And it was Treat Williams. It wasn't me. Tony Powers clearly has some sort of power.
Well, I could see how back in night flight days, this could be good for repeat viewing if they ran it more than once.
I don't know. Because as Mike Sauter says, this really has a feeling of, come on, we had to have one more video about a crime. Well, Tony's got a song called Don't Move, This Is a Heist.
It's got Treat Williams in it in the shower.
Yeah. Treat Williams stripped down for it.
But at least you could say, I mean, it's got a vibe to it. So, they used to have things that were quirky and not always the best, but sometimes just very interesting to look at. So, I can see it fitting in.
I'm not sorry that I know this exists. I have to say, I'm somewhat delighted. Especially now that he's doing trumpet with his mouth. Without a trumpet.
He's doing something.
A little extra Treat Williams in there. I'm going to guess that was Jeffrey Rush, but I know I'm wrong.
Wow.
And that, my friends, is 2 hours of our damn show.
But as always, it feels like we've scratched the tip, I mean,
well, and I feel
this night
like
flight was some kind of collection. I can tell. I have to check out more.
Yeah,
I will say one of the things that I'm always grateful to Night Flight for is that's where I first saw the music video for Laurie Anderson's Sharky's Day, which is a really great song and a really cool video. It's very much of its time, with the using some chroma key effects and so forth, or green screen kind of stuff. But it's you just wouldn't see it on MTV. So
that's true. MTV was very much a result of gatekeeping, but very corporate. One of the great moments of MTV, and I'm trying to wonder if I've ever seen it, if I ever saw it back in the day, because I've seen it more recently, which is Mark Goodman, the aforementioned Mark Goodman, interviewing David Bowie. And David Bowie saying, why do you call this music television when you only play just a limited selection of music? And Mark Goodman's like, uh-oh. I can't have this argument with David Bowie. A, I don't think I can win. And B, I certainly don't want to be impolite and argue with David Bowie. And David Bowie saying, there are black kids in Philadelphia and they want to see the Isley Brothers. And Mark Goodman's like, I'm pretty sure we've played the Isley Brothers. And David Bowie's like, no, you haven't. You haven't. You never played them. And I'm sitting there when he said that going, yeah, I don't recall ever seeing the Isley Brothers on MTV.
Yeah, and the other thing about the lack of, or the more corporate nature of what MTV chose to play was that you had this moment, and this happens with anything. I mean, there's a lot of conversations now about the way the internet and some of the major things on the internet now are versus the way they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And the first year of MTV was it really it kind of set the tone and changed music for the 80s in a lot of ways, because there were not a lot of mainstream big acts that had music video. I mean, Bowie was early on that bandwagon, but a lot of major artists weren't making videos, and the ones that did have videos were generally from England or Europe. And so when MTV started, there was just an explosion of cool bands from England that suddenly were getting attention in the US that never would have, because the rock radio stations wouldn't have allowed them on, and college radio wasn't quite as big as it would become. And so it was kind of a playground for people who were looking for something a little different. But then when everybody realized, like, holy crap, this is a huge promotional tool, and the big labels started, everybody had to make music videos, then everything changed, and you didn't get those, bands a little bit off the mainstream anymore. So, or at least much less.
Yeah. It's funny because I think Twilight Zone, I'd seen it first as a video. Speaking of Golden Earring.
Yeah.
But I know for an absolute fact, because I watched it happen. The entire early part of Madonna's career was club music. Like, I would hear from people like, oh, there's the singer Madonna. She's incredible. I've heard her in clubs in New York. And Jelly Bean Benitez was her producer, and he was a great producer. But then when I saw Lucky Star, when I saw that video, and it's just her dancing with two backup dancers to her song Lucky Star. And I was like, holy cow, this woman owns everything. This woman is, Borderline was becoming a really big hit when I got MTV. And holy cow, just a monster career, which I think she had because her sound was great. Madonna really, she can sing, she could sing, but she could really dance, and she looked great, and she had great style. But a lot of great visual artists of the time, the Cars, and they did great videos.
Well, I think you can, of the artists at the time, like Madonna, I think you can actually see when they fully embraced the video format. They were keeping that in mind when they wrote and performed their songs. And I think that in her case, the example there is Material Girl. That was definitely a super produced video that went right hand in hand with the song and gelled into one, cinematic piece almost.
Absolutely, because if you remember, Keith Carradine was in that video.
Right.
And there's like a little scene at the beginning or something. Get her on the phone or something. I can't remember what it is. I don't remember.
And of course, Michael Jackson took the ball and ran with it big time.
Oh my gosh, Michael Jackson. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, who already had a career and already was pretty well known and was doing pretty well with his album Against the Wall, which is a really good album. But yeah.
Sorry, John, Off the Wall.
Off the Wall. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Keeping me honest over here.
He wasn't Against the Wall till many years later. So.
Damn. Way to bring reality into this, Townsend. Yes, Steve's getting off the wall, damn it. Steve's off. Yes, off the wall. Okay, thank you. My God. Let's not get mad at each other about Michael Jackson.
Let's not have a recurrence of Captain Dumbass. We don't want that character back ever again.
Oh my God, Mike, I have done some of the worst things while doing these shows. The worst one was I was guesting on another show. We were going to recap an episode of Star Trek Discovery, and I got the day wrong. So I showed up for the show. Actually, the host hit me up. He was like, hey, you coming on the air or what? And I'm like, oh shit. I get on the air and I'm like, I never watched the show. So he's recapping the show for me. And I apologized a million times. I was like, look, we can do this again. And he's like, nope, I like it as is.
As did I. I remember watching that when it was live. And for one brief shining moment, one episode, the little name you see in the corner there of John's avatar was indeed Captain Dumbass.
Captain Dumbass. And it remains, I say this through shame and pride, it remains one of the most watched and listened to podcasts that our friend Flobo ever did with me, because I screwed up so badly. But hey,
so keep the gaffes coming, Captain.
I am lucky. I'm lucky to have you guys with me. I'm lucky to have Steve yelling at us in the comments. I'm lucky to have Joe gently guiding me towards the truth. Lucky to have you as a guest, Mike. So Mike, there we go. Any way you think we could sum up this this almost 2 hours? Oh my God, almost 2 hours of going through all this late night madness?
I don't know if there's a way to sum it up, except for, the internet is a great way to find just about anything, as we've kind of aptly demonstrated. But there were little pockets back in the day where you could you could find anything, only you couldn't control it, and it was linear, one after
Yes.
another. It was much harder to be able to seek out things, but it was much easier to stumble across things you never would have seen otherwise, in
Yes.
some ways. So it was I guess, not to steal from Dickens, but it was the best of times, it was the worst of times.
You could share, as we do now, you could share little clips and little things with your friends, but you had to act them out.
Well, or the other thing is that there was a period of time, and I don't know if you guys did this, but I certainly did, that there was a video version of the kid who wanted the song, so they had to tape, like that, all of side A and all of side B of the cassette off the radio to just get that one song that you wanted. And
I
and there
absolutely
were
did that.
yeah, and well, in the video realm, there was like a brief period where you kind of had to, you were rolling tape because you wanted to record a show that you enjoyed, and then there was some ad or something that occurred where it was just like, oh my God, I have to show this to everyone now. Or there was just some treasures that you would record, something would happen, you just, oh my God, I got to throw in a cassette and record this just to show other people later. That was a thing.
And honestly, that's what we're doing now. I mean, I loved it then. I remember, I'll make this quick. I was studying, Mike, you were communications at Ithaca College as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in my first year, a lot of things were changing because cable television was just becoming national. And yeah, I was there. I watched it happen. And there were a lot of things that were proposed at the time. One of the things that did end up happening was like super stations like WGN and PIX in New York and WTBS out of Atlanta. These super stations did become like their own networks. TBS especially, which created TNT, and it's kind of amazing that was originally just a UHF channel coming out of Atlanta. One of the other things was LPTV, low power TV. And basically you could get a television license. You weren't going to be able to reach anybody because it was so low power. You really didn't have the money or the power to get a giant antenna up to shoot out to people around you, but you could get a relationship with cable and they could carry you. And that eventually happened with Comedy Channel and many other channels as well, but I remember those two. We know them now as Comedy Central because eventually they merged and they became one channel. And what Comedy Channel was doing especially was what I wanted to do. And they were the ones who actually created a show called Short Attention Span Theater, which was co-hosted by Jon Stewart way back in the early days. And I just always wanted to do that. I always wanted to be able to show little clips and little lost pieces of, Bambi meets Godzilla. I mean, honestly, I would show the Golden Earring music video. I would show any of those things, because this stuff is so loose and fun and just weird, just these weird little orphan pieces of entertainment. So here I am, in my autumn years, an old man in his 60s, literally in his 60s now. And holy cow, I just still love it. I still love this format. So if you stuck with us, Steve, and anyone else who's watching this, if you stuck with us, God bless you. This is kind of my dream, sitting with my friends, being able to watch weird video.
Well, same back at you, John. And regarding tonight's, we'll call it a supersized episode length.
Oh my God.
You know what? We're counter-programmed tonight against the Academy something or other. I can't remember what it's called. That show runs 4 or 5 hours, so why can't we run a little past 2, right? We're much more entertaining, aren't we?
I mean, I actually feel bad because, Mike, you're in the Eastern Daylight Savings Zone, aren't you?
I am in that zone, yes.
We're going to have to let you go, aren't we?
Well, I appreciate being a part of this great stuff and great conversation.
Great having you, Mike.
Please come back to the show, Mike. This is
for sure.
This is the sort of
we
thing.
kept our audience to the end.
Steve gave us his sleepy emoji and then did the sorry, I'm up. One of the many things I love about Steve Arvizo is he's funny even in the written word, even in the comment section. He's funny. We got to tell you about this, folks. JoeTownsend.com. You got to go over because coming this fall, brand new collection from Mr. Townsend. Mr. Townsend, how you feeling about this upcoming collection? Are you done?
I'm not done. I'm well into it. I will meet this release date, if not sooner. But I can promise everyone that this is going to be a very eclectic, very fun, and I dare say somewhat terrifying collection of tales. We got a couple novellas plus some shorter work, so there'll be something for everybody that are fans of the genre. Absolutely.
Nice. Horror Springs Eternal, 13 Tales of Trial and Terror. Joe, I know you've got a great voice and you can do your own audiobooks, but if you ever wanted to take a chance on a friend doing an audiobook for you, I don't know.
That's an untapped market for me, so we'll be talking, John. You believe that.
We got to talk about that because you got way too big a library to not have on audiobooks. Folks, thank you so much if you've stayed with us. And Mike Sauter, anything public? Actually, you do have a public page on the Facebook. Would you like to get people to go over there, or should I?
I don't do that much. Well, here's what I'll do. I will mention the radio stations that I work with now in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, WYEP, which is a music radio station, very eclectic, very fun, and WGSA, which is an NPR news station. I host on our music station, WYEP, on Friday nights, Eastern time, 10 to midnight, a classic alternative rock show called Slacker Rewind. So you can check out, revisit some great classics, mostly around the 90s. And I can send people if they want to go to wyep.org/slacker for more info.
Very nice. Very nice. And
check
of course,
that out. Yes.
Of course, go over to JoeTownsend.com. You can definitely find more videos that Joe and I have done.
They are on the Starbase 80 page on the Facebook, or if you just want to go right over to YouTube, to the source, a Weber Internet Thingy is my channel, and I hope you'll check us out there. And gentlemen, are we ready to say goodnight?
Never ready, but prepared. Let's put it that way.
The man's a word.
There's always more fun to be had, but there's always next week as well.
Absolutely.
Indeed. Thank you.
All right. Now, straight from AI, here is our closing theme song. And I'm very proud of it. But yes, it is AI that made, well, you know, I wrote the lyrics, but
Grab your popcorn.
Good night, everybody.
Warm up your TV.
Good night, Mike. Good night, Joe.
Captain John, Commander Joe got something to see. We're all back in time to the golden past with the Retro Ranger. Oh, it's such a blast. We're flying high with the Retro Ranger. Give it a try and don't be a stranger. Ranger, strap yourself in for a fun-filled flight. Retro Rangers are flying tonight.